City leaders tackling speeding problems in Chicopee. Earlier tonight, the City Council met to discuss ways to slow down drivers. Western Mass News reporter Maria Wilson joins us now live in studio with details from tonight's meeting. Maria.
Chris, there were two unique safety measures on the agenda tonight, one about adding street signs and the other about reducing Chicopee Street speed limit. City councilors voting to approve both of those measures tonight.
I think our city streets and spending the money on pedestrian safety is paramount.
The conversation on how to make Chicopee roads safer continued Tuesday night. The discussion focusing on one street in particular, Chicopee Street. The stretch of road, which spans about a mile, has been the spot of numerous deadly crashes over the past year, including a two-car crash earlier this month that claimed the life of a 49-year-old woman. Last year, Chicopee ranked third in the state for most fatal pedestrian crashes, a statistic city leaders are hoping to change.
Time is not waiting for people passing away on our streets. Time is not waiting for all these fatalities, yet somehow we keep waiting for things to happen.
During that meeting, councilors voted on multiple measures seeking to improve safety on Chicopee Street.
I think we need to do it sooner than later because we are obligated, and I don't know how quick the signs are going to be changed, but if they're done quickly, then we're going to have a lot more problems on our street.
Including installing additional speed limit signs, something councilors voted unanimously to implement. Also on the agenda, whether or not to reduce the speed limit on Chicopee Street from 30 miles an hour down to 25.
35 is not going to work for a lot of reasons.
In the end, city councilors were in agreement, passing unanimously the petition to reduce the speed limit.
Hopefully with this kind of initiative, especially reducing to 25 miles an hour, we can save lives. And that's what this is all about, is making the city safe.
The city councilors who spoke out about the issue were very clear. These safety measures need to be implemented as soon as possible, but it's still unclear exactly when we can expect to see all of these changes in action. Reporting live in studio, Maria Wilson, Western Mass News.
Maria, thank you.